The king announced a couple weeks ago that a new campaign will be started. And I'm just going to give kind of a rough outline of that vision. And Save America and Guard the World campaign is the name of it. So if we could all, start praying for that success. 8 million is the goal by $8 million is the goal by the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival 2023. Okay, so not a lot of time. And Father used to really set aggressive goals financially. Sometimes he would say, I need $10 million tomorrow. And, the brothers and sisters all over the world would do what they could do to give Father the foundation he needed to advance God's kingdom while he was alive. And now we are the remnant of Father's chosen ones, to carry on the mission and expand the kingdom. So let's go to the next slide. So part of the fundraising effort is court battles. So we know that right now there's a micro battle going on. There's a macro battle going on. President Trump is in all sorts of legal wranglings right now. They're trying to bring him down. They're trying to silence him, silence his movement, and that's the devil's wish, right? Is that the conservative movement go away, and then the liberal agenda get a strong foothold in this country. So that's a battle. The king has talked about it repeatedly. The battle between good and evil, God's kingdom and Satan's kingdom. And on the micro level, there's another battle going on where there's forces that are trying to silence the king and silence his anointing that he received from Father. There's no question about it. The king received 3 very distinct anointings, the crowning ceremonies, and it was very clear that Father was, who he wanted to lead the next generation on. But there's forces at work, as we know, that are trying to stop that. So that legal battle is an expensive battle, but it's a battle that the king has never wavered on. We have to fight that battle. And sometimes you can only fight things through the courts, and that's where we're at with that. So our mission as the remnant supporting the second king is to support that endeavor. So let's keep that in mind. Okay, next. So this was really a turning point. January 6th, it was quite an incredible event. How many people had the great privilege of being there? It's quite a remarkable. The king, as mentioned, is like the Boston Tea Party, and that was a turning point in American history where the patriots of that time said enough is enough. And that's really what January 6th was about. Enough is enough. We are here to stand for righteousness, stand for goodness. And I think well over 1 million people assembled. And it was quite a remarkable event. Of course, the lamestream media wants to paint the picture that this was an insurrection and violent, people coming in to take over the Capitol, but 99.9% of the people there were just protesting the election and tyranny that is beginning to happen in the United States. They didn't even cross right, and they were let in. Anyways, there's a whole story behind that, and we've already looked at that. So, but the reality is this will be looked at as a turning point when the American people stood up and said enough is enough. Amen. Okay, next. So right after that event, the king announced we're entering the growth stage. Not sure exactly when it was, the next day or the following day, but it was right after that historic event that the king announced that sanctuary is entering the growth stage. So what does that mean? It's been really his message from the beginning that we are all co-heirs with Christ, that we are here to build strong families. We're here as sovereign kings and queens to have the right of ownership, land ownership, that we are here to really be God's hands and feet in the world. So this is kind of the spiritual message that the king has been pounding the kingdom, the rod of iron kingdom culture, and how we are to fulfill the three blessings through that, really understanding our identity as kings and queens, to raise children that are not weak, but strong in faith, strong in righteousness, and strong in mind-body training, right? Like jiu-jitsu, firearms training, really developing a sound mind and a strong body. So this is very important for the coming kingdom. That way, our kids will not be so easily influenced by the devil. And then the sovereign citizens, really, what does peace police, peace militia mean that Father talked about? It's really about each of us becoming responsible to our neighbor and to our country, to really become patriots in the truest way. And then based on this foundation, then the Chungilguk Constitution can be launched and accepted. So next. So it was also at this time that the king announced part of this growth plan was to go to Texas. And this was a little bit of a surprise at first, but then it started to make a lot of sense. Texas is it's a stronghold of righteous people, a stronghold of Second Amendment Christians, that understand the importance of the Constitution. They have a governor that is very strong in free speech and freedom of its people, strong Second Amendment state. In fact, it has a history of not always going along with the federal government. So it's well positioned to be a leader. God is working to separate the wheat and the chaff, the goats, the sheep and the goats. So next. So we can see here, Governor Gregg Abbott, he made the Second Amendment sanctuary in Texas, and he just passed a bill, the heartbeat bill, protecting newborns, that newborns can no longer be murdered once they have, it's a great victory, once the heart is beating. Obviously, it should be from conception, but this is a step in the right direction. Next. So it was on this that Liberty Rock, this was an amazing property that really fell into our lap in a way. It all happened very quickly, and I don't know if you've noticed, but in Texas, real estate is skyrocketing. It's up like 30%. But we were able to secure this property right before that spike. And it's an amazing property of cabins and RV sites right on a 12-mile lake that's filled with catfish and bass and all sorts of other fish. So the fishing is great, the hunting is good down there, and it's really a property that is now being managed by a blessed couple of Kyle and Diella Yoder, and they're doing a good job getting the property up to where it needs to be. Okay, next. So the purpose of the Texas property is really to preach the gospel and the Rod of Iron Kingdom message. Build a strong patriot movement. So already people are stopping in, under the King's guidance when we were down there. A lot of things got changed to really represent the patriot idea. Like the gas tanks were painted, the American flag, USA, and the Texas flag. And Kyle has been telling us just how happy people are in Texas to know that the campground is being run by true Americans and patriotic people. And so the kind of people that are being attracted already, even without any kind of advertising, these are just people led by the Holy Ghost, being stopping in and introducing themselves, are amazing people. And one person in particular is he promotes local patriotic events, and he wants to use Liberty Rock as a major area to hold festivals. And he has all the local connections, all the people, all the logistics on how to build that out and to attract people there. And so their first event's coming up in June, where it's going to support the sheriff's department, which, as you know, the King's been talking about the sheriff's model for 3 or 4 years now as the better model than back to blue is back to sheriffs, because blue can be corrupted. It can be corrupted in New York City or Detroit or San Francisco. You can get a very, very corrupt police chief in there, and all of a sudden it's not representing the Constitution anymore. Whereas the sheriff model really is a stronghold of the Constitution, and they're there to protect and defend, not some police chief, but to protect and defend the people, we the people, and the Constitution. So they're going to have their first event in June, and that, of course, will bring in hopefully thousands of people. And so again, that Texas will be that piece of land, even though it's only 42 acres or 37 acres, will represent really a piece of the kingdom of heaven. And then training grounds. There's going to be all sorts of opportunities to do training there. Maybe eventually a gun range or a gun range close by where people can train, or bushcrafting training. Expansion of the hobby industry. Father talked a lot about the hobby industry for years and years, how to connect with nature, how to bring people out of the cities and connect them to nature where they can experience God. So being right on a lake, that's a great opportunity. People can go out, they can experience fishing. Like Father, of course, was a great lover of the ocean, fishing in general. And so this will be an opportunity for people to connect on that level. Permaculture, that's really something where you plant things where it's not just for ornamental beauty or just pretty to look at, but it serves a function of food. So they're beginning to plan in the Texas property to grow like pecan trees and maybe grapefruits, and have different raised beds for gardening. So again, this is all promoting the kingdom culture, getting back to the land. Don't depend on just getting your food from the grocery store, because it may not always be there. Start developing skills, hold workshops, seminars on how to grow your own food, and to develop that permaculture mindset, which is really just making a very diverse ecosystem that supports the growth of food in the land that you can do permaculture on 1 acre, you can do it on 3 acres, you can do it on any size land. But the idea is to think food when you're planting. Different stages where food can be grown, and then to hold events, and ultimately to have the crown jewel will be a Rod of Iron Freedom Festival, and that's where obviously we see the great success here that we're having, and we're going into our 3rd year here, but already it's becoming a mecca, a point of contact for patriots to come and to honor God, honor the Constitution, and honor freedom. So this Pennsylvania model that the King and Cook and him have really invested in, not only here at Sanctuary Church, but also in Greeley, Pennsylvania, over at True Parents Memorial, is really a model for expansion. We don't want to just stay here and have everybody come here, but the King's vision is to reach out. So next. So these are the areas the King has identified as the area for growth and expansion. Of course, we have Pennsylvania. We'll be looking at property in Tennessee coming up June 12th, 13th, and 14th, 15th. Then Florida and Texas, of course, and somewhere out west, Utah is what is currently being looked at. So this really represents the nation. Again, God's kingdom can't necessarily come all at once nationwide. You have to kind of strategically start somewhere and then expand out from there. So this is all of these states really representative of that mindset of the kingdom. Okay, next. So what are these points? One is all 5 of these states respect the Constitution. They're red states. They're pro-life states. They're Second Amendment committed to the Second Amendment, pro-traditional families. You can see right now, actually, it's pretty interesting. A lot of these governors in these 5 states are pushing back against the Biden administration and some of the absurd things like the critical race theory, or some of these other very liberal tenets that really push Marxism. These states are actually pushing back and say, not in my state. It's not happening here. So these governors are really standing up and promoting traditional values. So it's a stronghold of patriots, and the governors and legislators, they're willing to stand up against the federal government. And this is really what we need now, because the federal government's totally out of control. It's expanding leaps and bounds, spending trillions and trillions of dollars that we don't have, printing money faster than you can think it. And so we need to pull in the reins. We need to return to traditional values. Okay, next. So it's really a time for all patriots to come together. I think the King is really breaking down the barriers. It's not just sanctuary church. No, we're all patriots. We're all in this together. He said, King has said over and over again, we either hang separately or we hang together. I think that's the saying. But it's a time not to focus on small points that separate us. It's a time that we look at the bigger picture. It's a time in which we see that the entire free world is in jeopardy. If America loses, we are the last bastion of hope. If America loses its way, and that's why Father spent so much time in the God Bless America tours and thousands of speeches based on the importance of America, the founding fathers, its vision, not only for itself, not just so America could be blessed, but so that it could be a blessing to the world. And this is really America's purpose, is to really give that hope, that beacon on the hill, that light on the hill, to encourage people in Hong Kong, encourage people in Russia, encourage people in Vietnam. Wherever people are, they can look to America as a place of freedom, place of liberty. So we've been blessed as a nation. And as Jesus said, anybody who's blessed, we have a responsibility. We can't just be living our dream here, just our own vision of what we want to do. And, that's kind of the individualism that Father would rail against. But no, we're here. We've been blessed. For whatever reason, we've been chosen. We were born in America, or maybe we came here from an oppressed land for more opportunities. For whatever reason, we're here today, and we're being asked by God to really help the world. And that's the best way to help the world is by getting America straight. That's really the best way we can be of service to God and to humanity, is by getting our country aligned with God's will. So a special thanks to the Inspector General. He has been unwavering in his support of the second king. He is truly the true Cain, and that's why Father anointed him the King of Cains, because he really supports the second king like no other. And we are really, really appreciative. In fact, even the Texas property, 75% of that bill came from Cookchenham's foundation. So that's a huge, huge support. Texas property would not exist if it wasn't for Cookchenham and his investment. And, of course, a huge thank you to our Japanese and Korean brothers and sisters who, when Father was alive, they really supported the Providence. I think we all, certainly us in the West, we really feel kind of really repentful that we couldn't do more, as an American movement. Always the Japanese and Korean brothers and sisters, especially Japanese on the financial side, really stepped up every time to fulfill what Father needed. And Father would not have been victorious, I think, if it wasn't for those brothers and sisters who sacrificed everything, oftentimes their families. So we owe them a big gratitude there. And now with the second king, they continue that tradition. and they continue to work day and night to support the Second King and the mission. So a big thank you to everybody. Everybody's given a lot. We just finished our last campaign, and now we're being asked to start the growth stage campaign. And I encourage everybody to put a prayer into that and see how you can contribute. Maybe you would like to, above and beyond tithing, you'd like to make a monthly donation. There's a sanctuary site. You can set up, whatever you can do. Of course, it should hurt a little bit, but you can go there and you can set in a monthly amount, and then that would be a great way to support the Providence. So, thank you all very much, and let's go forward into this growth period with great enthusiasm and excitement. Thank you.